360 deals are common in the industry now. It stopped being about selling records and became more about selling merch, while labels get a piece of your publishing, your touring, and other intellectual properties. Young Thug is currently fighting for his freedom in court after a recent Rico cracking down on his YSL team, which has caused Thug to have to take a step back from music, although it seemed he was really just hitting his prime as an artist. With so much respect from his peers and so much support from his fans, he was being mentioned by some as a visionary when it came to music. But what if his meteoric rise never happened due to the early battles between labels and an all-out bidding war for his talents of the up-and-coming star almost put his career on ice before it even got started, just to find out Thug was already signed to a deal that was unknown to everyone, even himself, and the big offers that they had on the table had to be reconsidered for a deal that only amounted in $15,000, which for a rapper that had hits like Thug was an unimaginable bargain. So who signed Young Thug, trapping him before he ever blew up, and how did he get out of the deal to create his own YSL label? Well, stick around to the end of this video and we'll put together the pieces to figure out how Thug turned the $15,000 trap into a multi-million-dollar empire. Jeffrey Williams, better known as Young Thug, grew up in Southwest Atlanta in the Jonesboro apartments. Atlanta was actually the first place in America to start these government-owned housing projects. It was noted the first was the Techwood homes owned by the Housing Authority. These projects put a lot of the youth in that area in very difficult circumstances when they were growing up, and Young Thug's situation wasn't much different, being one of 11 children under the same roof, which made it almost impossible for any of the kids to really get any attention or resources needed while they were growing up. Having to go through the death of a sibling or others getting locked up, his youth was full of a lot of trials and tribulations. Even school wasn't an escape for Thug, whereas when he did go to school, he still ended up getting in trouble, even breaking the teacher's arm in middle school. 4 years later, he ended up in juvie. It wasn't easy growing up on the streets, and there wasn't many people to look up to, but one of the few that Young Thug did look up to was well-known rapper Pee Wee Longway, who grew up 4 doors down from Thug. Pee Wee actually ended up being the reason that Thug got introduced to Gucci Mane later on in life.
Yeah, Thug done each other our whole life, man.
Okay, y'all grew up in the same area?
Yeah, same apartment. For the fame, he was Thug, man. Young Thug, you know? He tried. He Thug rapping for way before I was rapping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Young Thug started rapping, and then you saw the star in him, and you brought him around Gucci.
Yeah. We all, yeah. A lot of people saw the star. Everything, though.
But seeing how Pee Wee and other well-known figure in the Jonesboro projects, Wicked, was moving, it inspired Thug at a very young age. Very early off, the people around him knew his sound was different, and he approached music in a real innovative way that the others around him didn't. His rap career officially started around 2010 when he made a guest appearance on the rapper True Royal song She Can Go, then dropping his first mixtape, the first one in the series I Came From Nothing, which he continued dropping throughout 2011 and 2012. But in 2013, that's when he garnered the attention of another Atlanta-based rapper, Gucci Mane, who went on to sign Young Thug to his 1017 Brick Squad label that was under Atlantic Records. Gucci would later say that he didn't hear any of Thug's music. He just knew from meeting him that he wanted to sign him, so he handed him $25,000 and the rest was history.
And when he came, I told him, I said, listen, I'm gonna sign you. I said, I'm just gonna give you a shot. I said, I don't care if you can rap or not. I know you can hustle, so we're gonna just hustle the music. I'm gonna work with you. I didn't even know if he wrote his music. I really just wanted to help Pee Wee. But when I got that, when Pee Wee come to the studio, Pee Wee bring Thug and 2 other guys. I didn't even know these guys. I didn't even know he was bringing them. And Pee Wee was like, Gucci, listen, they hard. They the one who got me to start rapping. Sign them. And I had a bag with some money, and I got $25,000 out. I gave it to him right there, signed Thug right there. Never had heard a song on him, but just because he told me to sign him.
This is really important to Thug's story though, and it will come back up later. Under that 1017 label though, he will end up dropping 1017 Thug, which was critically acclaimed for its original style and ended up getting Thug a lot of notoriety throughout the industry. That's around when he ended up dropping one of his standout tracks, which is still considered one of his most known songs to this day, Stoner, a song that ended up opening Thug up to a whole new set of ears. That's when the first questions of who Young Thug was and who had him signed started rising when he started popping up on major radio stations throughout the United States, like Hot 97 or 105.1 in New York, and even spurring a ton of remixes that Young Thug would later claim were unofficial, besides one that had a rapper named Fabo on it. That connection with Fabo and Gucci Mane was the industry's first clue who Thug was actually signed to. Being a young up-and-coming rapper in Atlanta, Thug looked up to a lot of other Atlanta artists like Gucci Mane and others like Future, and even people that weren't from Atlanta like Lil Wayne.
But the biggest inspiration was that nigga Wayne. But the way that he goddamn greeted me, it's like really the main reason why I never goddamn, I always had in my mind, like, I never in my life treat another person like this. I ain't even get a chance. I'm like, man, I at least gotta give everybody a chance. Like, cause goddamn, I know I'm a real player.
Right.
And I know I ain't really get a fair chance.
Right.
The nigga that inspired me.
Those influences helped shape Thug's style and also helped him formulate a path that he wanted to take in the industry. With his popularity growing and even increasing from another song that he dropped, Danny Glover, he started receiving a ton of cosigns from people in the industry like Waka Flocka or Nicki Minaj, and also started teaming up with the well-known producer Metro Boomin to make a lot of music as well around that time. But long before those cosigns, Gucci was the first to see that talent, and he had Thug making hit after hit in the Brick Factory, feeding off of each other's energy and work ethic. As the industry started taking note, Thug would pledge allegiance to Gucci Mane's 1017 Brick Squad, and as Gucci went to war with the industry, Thug would double down on Gucci saying F a lot of people, pretty much saying, if Gucci says F you, then Thug says F you. But shortly after, Gucci Mane would end up in jail, leaving Thug's record deal up to question in his mind. With Gucci in jail, this spurred a lot of confusion with where Thug stood in the industry and who he was actually signed to. And with a lot of people seeing the potential in the rapper, it began a bidding war for his talent. This all started with Thug signing with Artist Partners Group, or APG, in the fall of 2013, which unknowingly created a marriage between Gucci Mane and APG, which were both under Atlantic Records. Thug's team felt like the contract with Gucci was voided when he went to jail, and with him being from the streets and not really being into the paperwork side of the industry, this confusion ended up causing a lot of turmoil for Thug that was just trying to put out more music. If APG knew that Thug was signed, they might have never signed him. He was considered a big risk to labels, but APG's CEO and president of Warner Music Group's A&R department, Mike Karen, stamped him after seeing his impact in the South. He ended up saying, F it, if you can sign him for cheap, then do it. And they did. They signed him to a full-blown 360 deal, which was the norm for how Atlantic Records moved, just as Lupe Fiasco. Thug got a reported $15,000 advance in the deal that was estimated at $30K in total. The timing of this deal ended up being very interesting because starting in 2014, it seemed like it was a free-for-all for Thug's talent. He would stop cooperating with APG, and they would also stop supporting him, ending with Thug trying to get out of the deal. It caused issues because even though APG wanted to let him out of the deal, they also had to figure out where Gucci stood in all of this. Gucci and Atlantic already had a bad relationship after Gucci was signed to Atlantic and his 1017 Brick Squad was distributed by Atlantic. APG thought that Gucci Mane's deal with Young Thug was all a verbal one and there was no paperwork involved. That is until Gucci did produce the paperwork showing that Thug was signed under him and he had a stake in where Thug's career was going to go from there. This caused APG's Jeff Vaughn to call Young Thug a liar, which in turn caused Thug to completely pull back from the label. But ironically, around the same time, that's when Thug's star would start to rise. Thug fired his manager Marcos Rippey, who had brokered the deal with APG originally, and he created a relationship with others that said they could get him out of the deal altogether. He first got into talks with Akon's brother Boo, who was the senior VP of Columbia at the time, tried to sign Thug and get him out of the deal with APG, but figured out that they would either need to terminate the contract or he would have to fulfill it. Around that same time, Thug actually was even in talk with Future's Free Bands label, who was reported to have offered him $8.5 million to sign. A couple of weeks after being in talks with Boo in Columbia, they ended up parting ways after they realized they weren't going to be able to sign Thug outright, which opened up the door for Birdman and Cash Money Records to slide in. which seeing as Thug looked up to Lil Wayne for a lot of his life, it seemed almost like a perfect fit for him. Even Thug was noted saying Rich Gang for life. This resulted in a lot of media speculation about him signing to the label, which later a representative from 1017 would clear out the situation, stating that Thug had just signed a management deal with Birdman's Rich Gang and not a record deal, and said that he was still signed to 1017 Brick Squad. But those wouldn't be the only people fighting for Thug's attention, when Kanye West will also jump in the ring, praising Thug for his ability to make songs so fast and his work ethic. Everybody in industry, from Rich Homie Quan to Chief Keef, wanted to be a part of what Young Thug was building, but Atlantic wouldn't be so quick to let him go. After seeing his rise in the game, that rapper that they thought was a big risk at the beginning stopped seeming so risky. So as Leora Cohen, Todd Miskowski, and Kevin Liles started building their new label, 300, they thought it would be a great idea to take Thug, who wasn't happy in his APG situation, and move him over to 300 so he'd still be under the umbrella of Atlantic, but be able to renegotiate his deal to make it a better situation for everybody involved. Regardless, Gucci was still owed a cut in all of this, and they still had to do some negotiation with him as well. From this point, it seemed like Thug's star only continued to rise, and even after hundreds of his songs were leaked due to a data breach, he still went on to keep dropping more music. The confusion as to who he was signed to or who he was aligned with raised many questions in the industry. Being connected with Gucci Mane's 1017 Records, Future's Free Bands, or Leora Cohen's 300 ENT. Thug will come out later to say he manages himself and he was signed to Atlantic, saying that he had a big special deal with Atlantic and only Atlantic. None of this ever seemed to stop Thug though, who just continued to keep making music, grinding, and keep rising in the game. Unfortunately, currently, he's the talk of the town for another reason that has nothing to do with rap. He's currently under a Rico in his well-documented court case. I'll leave the story here because of course his court case is still ongoing and there's thousands of other people that are covering it. So although Young Thug and YSL are under fire for a lot of things that don't have anything to do with rap, unfortunately, it's taken a lot away from one of hip-hop's most unique and innovative voices, and this is all happening at a time where creativity is at an all-time low in the rap game. But whether it was the Jonesboro projects or the battle between music industry labels, Thug approached it all the same, with an uninsatiable drive to work his way out of his situations, and we'll see if he's able to do the same facing this Rico. But if you stuck around to the end of this video, I appreciate you. You're definitely a real one. Let me know what y'all think about Thug's story down in the comment section. Also, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already before you get out of here. But like always, it's your boy Stone Astro, and we out of here, man. So go ahead and drop that outro.